Good evening. Right. The session would approximately go on for 40 minutes. See, the major agenda for today is understanding how the revision program is going to be won. But I just don't want to restrict it to that. But we would also see why are people not scoring well in Anthro. Now, generally, I would say this is a misnomer. Why? We take anthropology to score more. But the problem here is what is seen to be happening is people are scoring less. So we actually look at what is the fundamental analysis behind this subject. Why people are scoring less, what is there to enhance, and how we will go about with strategic revision. Because I don't have to do so much of promotion for that program, because every year it has been successful with respect to people scoring or improving their scores comparatively compared to their previous attempt. Now, in general, why are people scoring less? Any guesses? Right? I'm assuming that all of you are Anthro, right? So if you are not Anthro, then this is not foundation course. One clarity that I will not teach everything as part of this course. I will only handle something which is important, something which is exam specific. Okay? So any guesses why people score less in Anthro? Changing nature of questioning pattern. Okay. Then any other? Connection between paper 1 and paper 2, linkage. Okay. Lack of clarity. 3. Diagrams not being included. Okay, something interesting. Any other? Contemporary relevance. Okay. Any other? Okay, majorly see one trend that we see is many people are stuck with anthropology score being 180 to 220. And for me, I can only get an interview call if it is crossing 250. And when we were taking anthro, we took anthro because we wanted to cross 250, but the whole purpose of we taking anthro has been defeated because we are stuck with 180 to 220. The major reason for people being stuck here, this I would definitely consider it as less. Anything less than 250 is less. One major reason that we see is the conceptual clarity. Why I'm keeping this at the top is generally I will tell you what is the sequence people follow when they take anthro. You know, civil services demands an optional, and people look at score, and what do? They pick up anthro. But the problem here is they will simply say I will take toppers notes. What they will do? They will read, then go to exam. Major common observation that I make. Or what do? They already take some ready-made material, something like demystified, or something like what is that, simplified, or there are so many in the market. I don't want to take specific names. You know, when there is something which is already ready-made, you pick that up. Now what happens in be it this source or be it this source to a larger extent is we miss conceptual clarity. Now, because most of us have an apprehension that anthropology is a factual subject, it's not the case. Anthropology is not factual, rather anthropology is analytical and dynamic in nature is the first takeaway that we should definitely keep. First. The second most common problem that we see why people are scoring less is people are missing the relevance or context of the answer. I can tell you number of instances. For example, when there was question on Birsa Munda in 2024, what happened fundamentally there was people started writing something random. Or when there was a question on climate change and understanding about the tribal population or the corresponding issues of tribal population, or last year we had a question on fetal abnormalities. Per se, what is seen to be happening now, if some question is being asked and if it is in the ambit of my topper's notes or that ready-made notes, people write. If something goes beyond this, what people start doing, people start writing GS. That majorly happens in paper 1, paper 2. Per se, they were asking about what is the marriage relevance, how is it changing? That was one question. You look at different types of different rules of marriages in 2023. There was one question, different rules of marriages and how are they changing with respect to societal structure. Now, in all of these questions, what do? We randomly pick up some GS content and start writing. So when we write GS content, what is happening? For me, it is very clear I am writing optional, which is demanding specialized knowledge, but now I am emphasizing on writing GS, so I will automatically lose my marks. Now, people say when they talk about caste system. Now, for example, there was one question about the changing dynamics of caste system or changing dynamics of Jajmani system. Now, there I understand what is Jajmani system and I will write general studies perspective. That's not going to give me any marks. So, one major problem again that we come across is the relevance of the context of writing when we are writing an answer. The third major issue that we come across why people are scoring less to a larger extent is the problem of interlinkage. Now, if I simply ask you how to interlink concepts, you will randomly say some big names. Now, I'll tell you my own experience, my dear. Now, when I've been seeing the copies of the student for evaluation, they have written some anthropologist's name I have never come across them. And I doubt whether they are anthropologists or I don't know. Now, what is seen to be happening in this process, people unnecessarily start overdoing when it comes to writing anthropology. Because somebody told me I cannot write normal content. Now, I don't know which person on this earth told me don't write normal content. So, when they don't want to write normal content, they say they want to write something fantastic, something beyond. But what happens in the process? They start writing some abnormal content. Rather than writing some enriched content, they start writing abnormal content. Why I use the word abnormality? Because you see, there is one particular phenomena which Margaret Mead says, that something which is in my framework is considered to be normal and something which is beyond is going to be considered abnormal. Kada. Now, what is happening? Now, you write a thinker which is out of the ambit of examiner. Now, please understand, my dear, who is evaluating our paper? Our paper is being evaluated by somebody who is in the field of anthropology for last 20-25 years. And what is their nature? They would not have specialized in whole of the anthropology. They would have picked up one line of research. Somebody is doing research on archaeology. Somebody is doing research on tribes. Somebody is doing research on socio-cultural. Or somebody is doing research on caste. So, they might be well versed with that particular field, but not whole of anthropology. Now, for somebody who is a 50, 60 or 45 plus person, you expect him to learn new anthropologist's name. Do you think he would do that? He would not do. And you have written something which he doesn't know. And I always believe, be it in GS, be it in optional, be it in essay, be it anywhere in answer writing, for examiner, it is not knowing means not correct. That's all is their understanding. You write something which is unknown to the examiner, he gets a feeling that it is not correct. Now, just imagine somebody comes and tells me, you better understand what is anthropology. Now, I am not a specialist in anthropology, but if somebody comes and tells me, understand anthropology better, I will not be able to take it. Imagine somebody who is at 25 years, 30 years of experience in the field, and you tell him, hey, Fuddu, you don't know this. You learn this. Do you think he'll take it? He will not. So, in the process, what is happening? One very common issue that I come across students is, they say, sir, I have written all the thinkers. I have written so many thinkers, but I am getting 180. What is the problem here? You are overdoing in the process. What is happening to the examiner? Examiner is not knowing what you're writing. Not knowing is not correct. Adi simple funda amma. There is no rocket science in this. Somebody who is 50 years will not be expected to change and learn at that process. And what is a bigger problem? In the process, interlinkage is a miss. Now, he was referring not writing contemporary relevance. నేను అనేది ఏంటంటే కాంటెంపరీ రెలవెన్స్ అనేది irrelevant. Fundamentally, what is happening, my dear? You tell me, is it relevant to study some subject which is not contemporary relevant? No. Then why are you keeping a separate heading saying contemporary relevance? I don't know who the hell on this earth told this. Now, when I am writing anthropology, my understanding is what? It is already contemporary relevant. Why should I write contemporary relevance? Rather, I would say anthropological understandings, anthropological extensions, anthropological research, anthropological extrapolations, anthropological derivatives. What does that mean? I am showing that this is what is the relevance of it by using a particular concept. For example, if I am talking about some disease profile, if I am talking about epidemiology, what is my anthropological extension here? Epidemiological transition by Umran is an extension to that. Now, if I say no contemporary relevance, COVID-19. COVID-19 is contemporary relevance. No. Epidemiological transition and the second stage of epidemiological transition, the third stage of epidemiological transition is contemporary relevance there. So please understand, when it comes to interlinkage is never about keeping a heading contemporary relevance. Subject has contemporary relevance, that is why we are studying. So kindly ensure interlinkage. The fourth big problem where people are missing it is people are not using syllabus. When I say people are not using syllabus, now most of us are not very aware about where is what in the syllabus. Now, if I say religion, how many of you can think about something with religion? Theories. Okay. Then how is it changing? 5th chapter. I can think about 6th chapter, which is E.B. Taylor, Levi-Strauss, Malinowski, R.C. Brown, Edmund Leach. I can think about various aspects, right? Emile Durkheim. Religion, 6th chapter. Religion, 5th chapter, dynamics of religion. Anything else? Anything else? Now, it is not the problem with you alone, my dear. It is the problem with somebody who is studying anthropology. Now, when I say religion, I'm just taking an example for you just to make you understand this. If I say religion, you are only restricted to 5th chapter, you are only restricted to 6th chapter maximum. But for me, when I say religion, don't you think it's part of 2.1, which is culture? It is part of 2.2, which is society. Definitely, when I say religion, don't you think I can talk about with respect to 9.3 and 9.4 in the context of consanguinal, non-consanguinal marriages, in the context of the factor determining my gene frequency, in the context with respect to chromosomal abnormalities. 9.5, the religion can also be with respect to 9.8 in the context of epidemiological understanding, because health, disease has a relation with religion. I see certain superstitious beliefs in the context of the male reproductive organ being worshipped in the regions of Thailand, in the villages, them being installed. I have some issue with respect to those. What the concept of Goutham in the Japan society, that's again traced back to the philosophy of rebirth. That's again traced back to the philosophy of moksha. So automatically religion will also give me an extrapolation with paper 2, that is 3.1. Religion will also give me an extrapolation with respect to 3.4. The impact of religion on Indian society. Religion will also give me an understanding with respect to 5.3, the indigenous and exogenous factors, especially in the context of little tradition and great tradition interacting. I see modernization and traditions coexisting. That's a fundamental understanding, because there I see indigenous and exogenous, and religion becomes a very important factor in this particular aspect. Now I can see this getting related with 8.1 in paper 2, impact of religion on tribal societies. I can see this being related to 5.2, especially with respect to religious minorities. The aspects of religious minorities with respect to 5.2. What are the issues with religious minorities? Sachar committee. Then apart from that, I also see this having linkage with 7.2 in the context of ethnicity. Because religion becomes a basis of ethnicity, it's a basis of ethnic identity, it's a basis for ethnic conflict. I also see this becomes a fundamental understanding with respect to 9.1 to 9.3, where we study the issues of communalism. Now, am I doing something different? Yes. What is that? Whatever is my ambit, I am playing within the ambit. What are these notes or what are these books making you restrict to? These notes and books are making you restrict only to this. But what is examiner expecting you to do? Examiner is expecting you to do all of this, and now you come out of the exam hall and say, I'm scoring less. Now just imagine somebody like you doing those things, somebody like me doing all of these things. I would definitely be put on a pedestal of 270. Because don't you think all of these things are present in the syllabus? Yes. The only document which is common between you and examiner is syllabus. Not your Vivek Basmai, not your Akshat Jain, none of your ready-made sources, not your topper notes. None of those are common. Only common document is syllabus. How well are we using syllabus? So the fundamental point what I would like to tell you at this juncture is, please understand, people are scoring less because of lack of usage of syllabus. Now just imagine, if you look at any of my model answers which I would show you when I'm actually discussing in strategic revision, you would see that every answer will have at least 6 words from the syllabus. That is my count. You tell me any topic from the syllabus, I will link 6 other topics in the syllabus with that particular topic. Now that's not going to be an one night exercise, and that is not easy. That is not present in your toppers notes, that is not present in your ready-made notes. That is why in spite of writing so much, why are we stuck at 180 to 220? This is the problem. So what is the takeaway at this juncture is very, very clear. If I address all of these issues, I will automatically score more. Now, did I mention value addition anywhere? I have not mentioned value addition anywhere. Did I ever say value addition you should do? I have not. The fundamental understanding is, if I am able to stick to all of these dynamics, that itself is value addition. But what are people telling outside? Value addition means thinkers, case studies, contemporary relevance. I am not joking, but people are having case study manuals which is having over 1,000 to 10,000 case studies. People are having monthly case study magazines. Now I think you people have less burden of GS then. There is no point. I'm not pointing out anybody at this juncture, but my concern here is, why do you want to complicate the subject and defeat the objective of anthropology? Why did we take anthropology? That's a fundamental issue that we will have to address here. So, ultimate value addition in anthropology is, you follow this. You will automatically have value addition. You will automatically have relevance. You will automatically have context. And you will definitely have 260 plus in your mark sheet. Because if I don't get 260 plus, I can neither expect interview call, I can neither expect a rank. If I'm figuring out between 240 to 250 maximum, I can expect an interview call, provided your GS is fantastic, but not rank. నాకు ర్యాంక్ రావాలి అంటే ఆంథ్రోపాలజీ 260+ పడాల్సిందే. ఐ నీడ్ 260+ at any cost. Now, so what should we do in the process? Now, if I have to tell you what should we do in the process, it's very simple. Have the grip on syllabus. When I say syllabus, I will teach you through the sessions how to interlink the different topics of syllabus. That's my art. You name the topic, I will tell you 10 other linkages. Now, for suppose you take caste. Now, what's happening with caste? I can see caste. I can look at 3.1. I can look at 3.2. I can look at 3.4. Yes, I can look at 5.1. Yes or no? Yes. I can look at 7.2 again, which is ethnicity. This is paper 2. Now, when I come to paper 1, I can look at 2.1, part of culture. I can look at 2.2, social stratification and social hierarchy. I can look at theories of social stratification. That's with respect to caste. I can look at marriage with respect to changing dynamics of marriage, intercaste marriages, caste endogamy as a phenomenon. I can look at that aspect. I can get into the 6th chapter with respect to what? The structuralism, the structuralist understanding of caste, be it with respect to Louis Dumont, be it with respect to Edmund Leach, be it with respect to Levi-Strauss. Because whole of my understanding of caste system has emerged from the understanding of binary opposition with respect to Levi-Strauss. An understanding of tribe caste continuum in paper 2 is a derivative of Edmund Leach, which is nothing but oscillating equilibrium and theory of mediation. I can get into that. Now, what is fundamentally happening all through the process? Caste, I am playing within the syllabus. You name the topic, I can tell you. So, what you need to master? You need to master that art, syllabus. What is the syllabus going to give me? The syllabus will give me an elements of interlinkage. The syllabus will also not only give me an elements of interlinkage, but the syllabus will also give me an elements of structure of writing an answer. Many people, what do they say, sir? What is there to write, or what is the structure to write an answer in anthropology? Now, most of us are in assumption that we don't have structure to write, but please remember, my dear, anthropology also has structure. Every topic has a structure. Now, for example, if they're talking about rules of marriage affecting my, or what is the affecting my marriage pattern, affecting my mating pattern. Now, when I say rules of marriage, in that particular context, I will have to see whether it is preferential, whether it is prescribed, whether it is preventive, whether it is prohibitive. Now, what is happening in this particular context, whether it is endogamy, whether it is exogamy, in endogamy and exogamy, whether it is hypergamy, whether it is hypogamy, whether it is isogamy, whether it is anisogamy. Now, I will derive the structure from this particular aspect. Now, for suppose if they are asking you, examine the recent dynamics of Indian family system in paper 1. Now, what is the basis for writing? What is the basis for asking that particular question? The basis is very clear. The last 2 lines of family chapter, that is 2.4. What is the impact of urbanization, industrialization, feminism on Indian family? I will have to bring in those factors. And what other factor of dynamism is present with respect to my syllabus? Globalization from economy chapter. Because when you go back and refer to the last line of the 3rd chapter, what is it talking about, my dear? Impact of globalization on indigenous economic systems. So that means globalization will also become a factor of dynamism with respect to family. Because I know globalization is already present in the village chapter, which is 5.1. And when it is present in village chapter, which is 5.1, I know village system is having joint family system. An impact of globalization will definitely affect my joint family system, might result in disintegration, might result in a cyclical phenomena which is given by Raymond Firth. I know different theories which are existing. So what is the fundamental understanding here? I am getting the structure from the syllabus. Now just imagine, my dear, all through my answer I am seeing something which is very common with the syllabus. Don't you think examiner will be satisfied? Yes. Examiner will know that you are playing within the syllabus. He knows that you are writing a normal answer, not abnormal answer. And that getting that feeling is extremely important in the context of answer writing. Why people score less is because they think they're writing something fantastic, but the problem is you don't have to write anything fantastic, write something normal within the syllabus. For example, again, I keep telling this example quite often. Now, if they're asking you what is the corresponding changes or the biochemical or the physiological changes with respect to extreme temperature conditions, 9.7 ecological anthropology. Now, there, what are the extreme conditions that are mentioned to us? Cold, hot, extreme conditions. Now, can I bring in high altitude condition as extreme condition? Yes. Why are we restricting only to cold and hot? I will bring in this condition also. Now, what all will I write in this particular aspect? I will derive the structure from 10th chapter, growth and development, which is talking about factors of growth. Now, what all changes will happen? The changes could be genetic. The changes could be physiological. The changes could be long term. The changes could be immediate. The changes could be cultural. The changes could be nutrition. Now, what are these factors? These are the factors which are mentioned in the chapter of growth. Factors affecting growth, you see hyphen, 4 or 5 factors written. I'll pull those factors and put as a structure. Now, will I leave this answer as it is like that? No, I will talk about the homeostasis understanding. I will introduce the answer by writing homeostasis. I will introduce by saying what are the deviations that are existing because of hot temperature, cold temperature, and also high altitude. I know what are the issues, and I know what are the kind of acclimatizations and adaptations which are happening. That could be biochemical, that could be biophysical, or that could be with respect to cultural adaptations which are existing. Now, if I want to mix theories into this particular answer, most of you will write 9.7 as it is, but I will mix theories into this particular answer. I will write the phenomena or understanding of neo-evolutionism. In neo-evolutionism, my culture ecology approach of Julian H. Stewart. Because I know with the variation in the climate, there is also variation with respect to tool technology. With a variation in the ecology, there is also variation with respect to culture which is existing. And more importantly, if I have to talk about the biocultural adaptations which are given by Shawlins and Service, which is again part of neo-evolutionism. Now, will my answer be enriched? Yes. But am I writing something which is unknown? No. Am I playing within the ambit of the syllabus? Yes. The problem with anthropology as an optional is many people unnecessarily romanticized the understanding of anthropology. The problem with this romanticization is that they started giving some bombastic knowledge. Are we here to become an anthropologist? Absolutely no. But are we here to satisfy anthropologists? Yes. That's an art. And how will I satisfy anthropologists? By knowing the syllabus of anthropology. Please understand this difference. The reason why, in spite of you ransacking so much of material, writing so many case studies, writing so many contemporary relevances, writing 1000 pages of notes, why are you still scoring 180 to 200? You are fundamentally missing the play on syllabus. Now, for suppose if 1 year there was a question on examine the application of biotechnology on applied human genetics. I think it was 21 or 19, one of these years. Now, what is the problem with this question? People started writing GS answer. But what is the point? Now, you go and refer to the last 3 lines of 12th chapter. When you go and refer to the last 3 lines of 12th chapter, they will be written applied human genetics hyphen forensics, paternity diagnosis, eugenics, genetic counseling, all of this will be written in that. So what is examiner demanding? Examiner is demanding you to examine what is the role of biotechnology there. But will you restrict to 12th chapter of writing applied human genetics alone? Don't you think biotechnology to me is nothing but enabling me to go for man-family studies of 9.1? Because in man-family studies of 9.1, when you are looking at qualitative and quantitative analysis, what are you seeing, my dear? You are seeing there is something called as rDNA technology. In rDNA technology, for me, rDNA means recombinant DNA, which is nothing but genetic engineering, which is nothing but biotechnology. I can start off my answer saying that biotechnology gives me a deeper understanding of man-family studies, which enables me to examine both the qualitative and quantitative traits. Bhai sab khatam matter. Now am I writing some research? I am only writing my syllabus. But I know how to write it in a manner which even examiner doesn't realize that I am writing syllabus. Qualitative, quantitative traits, yes. Man-family studies, yes. Yes or no? Yes. For example, for that I'll give you a simple instance, rDNA technology, part of syllabus. Then I would say, I will simply put a flowchart there, applied human genetics, and write all the components given in the syllabus. Don't you think I've already used 7-8 words from the syllabus? What will an examiner get a perspective? If this fellow is clear with the syllabus, he is clear with the answer. Don't you think my structure is ready? Biotech on forensic, biotech on genetic counseling, biotech on eugenics, biotech on paternity diagnosis. Simple. Why should I ever struggle? For example, if they're asking you, examine the relevance or increasing relevance of forensic anthropology in the present society. మనకు ఫోరెన్సిక్ అనగానే క్రైమ్ గుర్తొస్తుంది, ఏదో డిటెక్టివ్ సినిమా చూసినట్టు రాయాలి. But what is the fundamental point there? I will start my answer writing forensic anthropology is a branch of physical anthropology which deals with the medico-legal aspects. Ante. Here I made a statement telling to the examiner, I know physical anthropology, I know that forensic is a medico-legal branch. And then straight away, what will I say? How will I say it is increasing relevance? Increasing relevance with respect to evolutionary studies. Increasing relevance with respect to disputes and identification. Personal identification and facial reconstruction is a topic in your syllabus. I will use forensic anthropology and its relevance there. I will use forensic anthropology in archaeological aspects. I will use forensic anthropology with respect to research, further research. Now, what is seen to be happening here? Am I writing something new? Am I writing GS? No, I am absolutely sticking to the context of the topic which is from the syllabus. So, what is my crux of it, my dear? 250 is easy. Provided you bring in syllabus context, you bring in these interlinkages, and you bring in structure through syllabus. So, whatever I was discussing till now is something which is going to give you a guarantee of 250. But from 250, we will have to do some circus. What is the 250 to other circus that we are supposed to do? 250 to 270 or 280, some circus has to happen. Very simple. That is where we will talk about some extra additions. So-called contemporary relevance. నాకు ఆ పదం అంటే చెడ్డ చికాకు. Because you are humiliating anthropology. If you are specifically putting contemporary relevance in a subject paper, it means you are telling that there is no relevance, but I am bringing in relevance. This was a pattern in 2016-17. People were tolerant on it. But now, after the era of ChatGPT, so much of development, so much of street smart nature, people are not tolerating this contemporary relevance because it is relevant. Because the questions are also very relevant in the contemporary times. You see the question on digital ethnography. Now, if anthropology is not relevant, how can you ask on digital ethnography? If anthropology is not relevant today, how can you ask on climate change impacting the lives or climate change affecting the issues of tribes? So I would say write something different, not contemporary relevance. What is that? Some extra additions. How many extra additions? In the particular program, we will have 50 case studies. మొత్తం అంతకు మించి పైసా కూడా ఎక్కువ పోండి, నాకొద్దు. 50 case studies. What to do with this 50 case studies, I will teach. Same case study we will throw in at least 3-4 places. But the idea is we will throw in paper 1 and paper 2 separately. Now when I do that, what's going to happen? First of all, the load on my memory is less. How many thinkers will you remember, my dear? Now just imagine, if I just consider 6th chapter alone, how many thinkers I have? I have over 20 plus thinkers, right? In socio-cultural alone, apart from 6th chapter, what else you see? Emile Durkheim comes away from 6th chapter. Talcott Parson comes away from 6th chapter. Raymond Firth comes away from 6th chapter, right? Arjun Appadure comes away from 6th chapter. Then who else will come? Majorly these only. Now something like William Ogburn and all, they are very specific. W.G. Sumner is again very specific to the concept of understanding of we feeling, in-group, out-group, ethnocentrism, that aspect. Now, in socio-cultural, say extra 10 thinkers. Now, total in socio-cultural alone, I have 30 plus thinkers. Right? Now, again, I will have to write physical anthropology. Now, the problem with physical anthropology is many people will ask me, sir, are there thinkers in physical anthropology? There are thinkers in physical anthropology. Are there case studies in physical anthropology? There are case studies. Not like your target Olympic podium for writing in kinanthropometry. That is not the case study. You keep writing one case study, that Jharkhand tribal boy hockey stick design. అవన్నీ అయిపోయాయి. ఆ కేస్ స్టడీలు రాసి అరిగిపోయాయి. There are some specific understandings which you will have to bring into the paper. Now there again, I would say for physical anthro, around 10 to 15 thinkers will be there. For example, you look at Faulkner's understanding of forces of evolution. Now he writes a book called Quantitative Genetics. In that he talks about systematic forces and dispersive forces. మనకు తెలియదు చాలా మంది. But the problem is that is basic. Because questions were asked on examine the various forces of evolution. Examine the factors affecting the genetic frequency. Now in all of these questions, examine the relevance of molecular biology. In all of these questions, the answer is same. The answer is they are asking about MMS, that is with respect to mutation, migration, selection, and more importantly, genetic recombination. Those are the factors: genetic drift, genetic recombination, selection. All of these are the different forces of evolution which are affecting my gene frequency. And when I'm writing a question on gene frequency, I will have to bring in Hardy-Weinberg rule, because that is talking about the ideal condition of gene frequency. So what is I'm having 10 to 15 thinkers? Now paper 1, 45 thinkers already. In paper 2, which we are supposed to write, there will be around 15 to 20 thinkers. So total around 70 thinkers are already existing. How many more will you remember? These 70 are mandatory. Now when these 70 are mandatory, the art here is how are we going to throw it around? How are we going to interlink? See, I might sound very different from the narrative that is existing outside. For me, it is not a third party understanding, it is a direct understanding of such a strategy with respect to writing answer in anthropology. And very recent, very recent in that particular context, not 2014, 2015, not those eras were very different, my dear. Those eras were very different. After 2020, you see paper started shifting like anything. Extra additions, one. The second thing that will take you from 250 to 270 is, I would say, practice of what? PYQs. Why am I making 250 to 270 practice of PYQs? Because PYQs will give you dimensions in the answers. That's important. PYQs will give you, now for example, you see, there was one question with respect to 2025, that fetal abnormalities and what is that? Blake. Who was that? One thinker was given. One thinker was given. Just cross check. Now, what happens with that particular aspect? We can use the thinker as a substantiation in one of the answers of anthropology. So, what is seen to be understood here? You practice PYQs well. The dimensions here itself are going to be the points for the next question that you write in the exam. Now, what is going to take above 270 to 290? In 270 to 290, extreme display of expression. When I said expression here, my expression has to be clear with respect to what am I writing of anthropology. Most of us will miss this. So 270 to 290 will depend upon how are you expressing in the exam hall. Am I putting it organically or am I putting it mechanically is going to differ. And for me, the target is only up to 270, 280. 290 is your talent. 300 is UPSC's grace. It's not in our hand. Right? Again, I am telling I will never utter 300 plus. అది నీ చేతిలో నా చేతిలో ఉంటే బాగానే ఉంటే అందరికి 300 రావాలని మనస్ఫూర్తిగా కోరుకుంటాను. బట్ దట్ ఈస్ ఇన్ ద హ్యాండ్స్ ఆఫ్ UPSC. So the strategy here is very, very clear that syllabus, basic interlinkage, from this structure for every topic. For example, for suppose if you are writing an answer on abnormalities, what is the structure we follow? Life cycle approach you say. But if I say first basic description about the disease, that means is it sex chromosome or is it allosomal or is it autosomal? If it is autosomal, what is the number it is associated with? Or is it 45 plus, 45 minus, 47 plus or 47 minus? I will have to look at. And then once I look at the basic description, I will have to look at what is the process of diagnosis. Am I looking at chromosomal karyotype analysis? Am I looking at bar body analysis? Or am I using some ZFN finger technique or am I using some rDNA technology to identify or to diagnose? Once I diagnose, I will have to talk about what are the characteristic features of that respective disease. And once I write about characteristic feature of respective disease, I will have to write the prognosis of the disease. For example, if it is sex related, we will talk about either testosterone shots or either estrogen shots. We will look at the prognosis. And in prognosis, definitely one thing that we will have to use from the syllabus is the understanding of genetic counseling. We will definitely have to understand the aspects of gene therapy because that's all mentioned in your 9.4. And once you talk about prognosis, finally you will talk about what is the frequency of the disease. Now, when I have these aspects, then chromosomal abnormalities means I will remember about one stunted diagram. People say draw diagrams, but not stunted. Like they will simply draw something and display something there. It's not clear. Simple structure. Now, every topic of the syllabus will have structure. Every topic of the syllabus will have structure and we need that structural aspect because one, to consolidate, two, to memorize, three, to execute in the exam hall faster. Why are we unable to recollect the points faster? Because we don't have structure when we are recollecting. So more importantly, we will have structure, basic linkage, the respective syllabus. And once we do that, I already told you we need to go for extra additions. Now all of this is what I am going to do in the strategic revision program. I am not going to teach from basics again. I will straight away get into basic concept, then the structure for that concept, what kind of thinkers can be used from the syllabus, and are there any extra additions which can be made outside the syllabus. and I would discuss about what kind of intros and what kind of conclusions can be written for that particular topic. That's all. It is straight, spot on, no unnecessary additions. Now, because for me, getting a guarantee of 260, 270 is more important than targeting 300. Because in the process, what is happening? Many people are losing out and getting 180, 190. What is one strange approach that I have seen? People are scoring well in paper 2, people are scoring very less in paper 1. People are scoring more in paper 1, people are scoring very less in paper 2. I can tell you 130 and 60. This is a score that I have seen, 80, 80 or 120, 70. Now these are the scores that have come across all three. Now in the process, what is happening, my dear? You are missing one aspect in any of these. And one more thing that you will have to understand now, for suppose many of you are perceiving that anthropology is changing. Yes. I would say they are putting the old wine in the new bottle. That's all. Because for me, the understanding is very clear, my dear. Most of you might say, I will have to write all 500 marks well. That's not the strategy. That's not the strategy. For me, I will have to write 430 to 440 well. And rest 60 marks, I will just write. I will just write. That means even if I get 30%, I am getting 18 marks here. And if I get around say 440 into say 65%, because writing well, that is possible. Right? 65% if I am getting, how much I am scoring? 65 or 60 this. How much it's going to be? 264. 264. Now say no sir, 50% you take. 50% is how much? 220. 220 plus 18 is how much? 238 or 240 should have been minimum. So should we be worried about those abnormal questions? Absolutely no. Just like this year prelims. Should I leave those questions? In prelims, yes. In mains, no. What we will do? We will write using basic syllabus. 1. Whatever we know, we will write. 2. Because I am not expecting anything beyond 30% in that answer. But rest of the 440, my question to all of the aspirants is it from my syllabus or not? Yes. Then why are we worried? Even if 400 is from my syllabus, even for 400, if I write 60%, for 100 I write 30%, how much it is, my dear? 240. 30% is 30, 270, the logic is same. Are you understanding this? So for me, the target is never writing 500, and you can never write 500 well. 60, 70 marks, I am not even bothering. I will only write. For example, glottochronology was a question in 23. Now, will you write a perfect answer for glottochronology? Because you only know 2 lines of glottochronology. If you know the etymology, you know chronology, or if you look at the Hindi translation, it was something related to language, some bhasha, parivignan, something was there, some science, some studies. What is that I knew when I was writing that 23? Glottochronology was something related to historic linguistics. Now, based on that line, I should be able to write at least one side or 1/4. I cannot extend beyond, because examiner will understand I am bluffing. Now, can I expect 4.5 for that answer? No. What am I saying there? Instead of getting 0, I am going to get 2. I am happy with this 2, not with this 0. So, those glottochronology, those questions will come where? In the 60 marks. So, be very, very clear, paper is not changing. Paper is not tough. Paper is not impossible. You should only focus on those 400, 440 marks, which is within the ambit. Other 60 marks, just manage. And anyway, you know the syllabus, you can write something. Now, fetal abnormalities again. That particular question, David Blake, I think, that person's name they have given. Now, Again, in that particular context, what will you write? You will only know about fetal abnormality. What is fetal abnormality? Abnormality in the fetus. What will that result in? Something you write. Something you write, because you know in the syllabus bio events of fertility and fecundity you have. Bio events in fertility and fecundity, if there is some abnormality in the bio events, I see fetal abnormalities. The causative factor is in my 11th chapter and the consequence is in 9.4, which is chromosomal abnormalities, which are congenital diseases. I also see the impact is in 9.8, which is epidemiology, genetic disorders. That's all, no? Now, can I expect 4.5? I don't want 4.5 for that. I only need 2. I only need 2.5. So, if you are able to have this particular strategy, I think more or less it is doable. And in strategic revision, my focus is very simple, all of this. To keep the subject as it is. Nothing extra, right? Nothing less. And I am sorry, I might sound very different from the existing narrative on anthropology, but sooner or later, everybody will realize that this is what is the true narrative of anthropology. And I don't want to sound scholarly, I want to simply sound exam specific, that's all. And when I want to sound exam specific, my derivatives are from syllabus, nothing extra from that. Right? So the clear-cut understanding is this, right? And you would have respective value additions. Now this time I'm thinking on 1-pagers on each thinker. For whatever 70 thinkers I told, that is going to take some time, but probably by 20th June I would come up with that 1-pager on every thinker. Now when I have 1-pager on every thinker, towards the end I'm going to keep a section there, chapters to be applied. In which all chapters I can apply the same thinker. That how to apply I will not give in the handout, how to apply I will teach. ఎందుకంటే అది హ్యాండ్అవుట్లో ఇస్తే ఇంక మీరు నా దగ్గరికి రారు, నాకు తెలుసు. Okay, you will become boss in yourself, but that's fine, again, no issue at all. Okay, that I am planning for this year strategic revision. That would come around 70-80 pages of handouts for multiple thinkers in the syllabus. Otherwise, we have value addition handouts that are already existing. I would also give this thinker handouts which are useful for interlinkages. So more or less, this is what I'm going to do for strategic revision. Any doubts? I'm more than happy, sir. I didn't take any coaching, but I want to join SRM. Please suggest limited material so that I can follow SRM. Please be very clear, my dear. Now, don't look at SRM as an alternative to your foundation course. Now, SRM is only helpful for somebody who has read anthropology at least once or twice, or who have heard anthropology at least once. Now, if you consider SRM as an alternative to foundation course, that's not going to happen, right? How many sessions will we have? We will have 20 sessions, right? Majorly. Corresponding focus we will have on, we will start off with physical anthro. Then we would look at tribal anthro. Then we would look at socio-cultural of paper 1 and paper 2. Then we would look at archaeology. This is the overall order that I would follow. One is physical, I'll start off. Because for me, the reason to start with physical and tribal is these are the ones which are going to enhance your scores in paper 1 and paper 2. If I have to score something beyond 120, 130 in each paper, I need these 2 sections to be very strong. And I cannot have much of variation in these 2 sections. That's the beauty of these 2 sections. We would have those aspects. And then socio-cultural clubbing both paper 1 and paper 2, that is caste, village, family, marriage, kinship, all of those aspects. And all across we would see 6th chapter being utilized. 6th chapter in paper 1 and 4th chapter in paper 2. So this is the overall agenda with respect to strategic revision. You will also have tests incorporated along with sessions, and paper will be set by me, evaluation will be done by me, right? So both of the things will happen by me. There is no third party evaluation which will happen. We will sit 1-to-1 with respect to evaluation. Priority will be given to somebody who is writing mains first, and then we would look at somebody who is targeting 2027. I'm not going to discriminate, but I'm saying in the process of priority, right? So that is all with respect to the program. Any questions, I'm more than happy to answer. Online, any questions you have? Program is going to, initially I thought I would have 3 sessions on thinkers, right? Those I'm planning to have on 11, 12, 13. Okay. And now because this year a lot of dynamics are changing with respect to prelims result is going to be a little delayed. But can we start after result? No. I don't want to do that. Probably we would do 11, 12, 13. That means assume that the session is going to start from 11th and we will have from 6 to 8 in the evening. I don't want to have it in the morning. You sit and study in the morning. We will have these sessions in the evening, 6 to 8. Rest it will follow. So will the session? When will the sessions and test conclude? See, with respect to conclusion of, I would say we would have your full length test of anthropology somewhere in the first week of August. That is full length. So by then, first week of August, you would have finished your whole anthropology of one cycle. And then what is going to happen? You would have your 20 days of revision for the mains examination. Somebody who is writing 2027, you will have whole 3-4 months of revision. Nothing to worry, nothing to be disheartened, because the process is like that. Okay. Is that clear? Sessions would get over somewhere in the mid of July and tests would get over in the first week of August. Any other questions you have online? I think you got a clear perspective of what's going with Anthro. That's what again I'm telling you, this might sound a little different, but this is very practical. And trust me, this is what is going to have minimum efforts. And guarantee of 250, 260. Right? I don't want to make false promises. ఆ 300 తెప్పిస్తా తెప్పించడానికి నేనెవరు తెచ్చుకోవడానికి నువ్వెవరు. Ultimate boss is UPSC will do the scaling process, and in that you cross 300, you cross 300. Otherwise, you're stuck with 280, 290. That is the real. Is the test schedule different for people writing mains this year and next year? No. Test schedule is the same. There's no difference, right? So that's one thing that you'll have to understand. Test schedule is the same. Class schedule is the same. It's not going to change, right? Because there are certain limitations which are going to pop up in the middle after August. So nothing is going to be extended. Sir, we have not yet done with paper 2. Is it okay to join? I mean, have you taken some course already, my dear, or what is the status with you? If you have not yet done paper 2, you'll have to do paper 2. Right? You will have to do paper 2. At least you should know what is Sanskritization. You should know who is Yogendra Singh. Right? You should also know who is M.N. Srinivas, LP Vidyarthi. Basic understandings, if you know, I think this will make relevance. Otherwise, no. Any other? Any other? That's what I said, my dear. Now, the question is popping up for somebody writing next year, will the evaluations be done? They'll be done. Now, for suppose if I'm giving a schedule for evaluation, first 2, 3, 4 numbers will be somebody who is writing mains. 5, 6, 7, 8 will be somebody who is writing mains next year. Ade roje evaluation jarutadi. The same day the evaluation will happen, and in that, whom am I going to sit and interact will be first somebody who is writing mains this year. Then we would see somebody who is writing next year. Right? I'm not telling that I will not evaluate those people who are writing next year. You write test now, I will evaluate next year before writing mains. I'm not telling that matter. Be very clear. More confusion about paper 2. Now, paper 2, you need consolidation strategy. Because if you look at whole of your syllabus of paper 2, it's repeated. 60% alone is the syllabus, 40% is repeated. And probably when I start off, because the first session will only be on syllabus, in that you will see what convergence will be existing, and you would see paper 2 will have 40% repetition across this scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, constitutional safeguards, minorities, ethnicity, communalism, regionalism. All of these are repetitions. You can see that. Any other questions? ఇంకేమైనా ఉన్నాయమ్మా? You have some questions, no? Fine. Right. So if there are no other questions, I think we'll wrap it up and we'll probably meet on 11th again. Right. So I think all of you have registered so that I can have a common point of information to be sent. Right. So please tell me about the test series evaluation for online. Online will happen online. You will write the test and send it to the technical team, and it will be evaluated as and when it is to be done. That will be taken care. Right. We have already done it last year. Any other? Fee for the course will announce. Right. Depending upon certain logistic aspects, we will have to announce the fee. We would do that. I think we will have a revised notice and revised update upon what is the fee, what is the schedule. Everything will be given detail before we start the program. That will be taken care. Right. Probably by this weekend we'll release. By this Sunday we will have everything done in detail. Okay. Any other? Any other course? Any other thing that you would want to ask? If there are no other questions, that's it from my side, Malia. Thank you.